Welcome to the second annual BarDown Top 25 Players in the NHL list. This is the first in our series of season preview videos that we'll be releasing before the puck drops on October 4th, and probably the most fun list to make. This year, we have 4 lists, all with the same goal in mind. Who are the top 25 players in the NHL? All right, let's go over the rules real quick here so that it doesn't get too scattergunned. And also, so in the comments, when you are inevitably upset when someone's either in there or not in there, you at least know the guidelines that they were following. So this list is about the top 25 players. It is not just about point production. This is not just about the player's value to the team individually. Oh, they really rely on him. He needs to be. This is not the NHL All-Star game. You can completely have teams off of this list. You can completely have divisions off of this list. The way that we're going to reveal it, it's 25 through 16 to start, and then from there we're going 5 at a time. Last year, just because I got to make fun of you a little bit, just a little bit. Luka, Ilya Sorokin.
Yeah,
9.
I know, man.
Wow. Guy got
goalies.
Insane take.
Insane.
It wasn't that insane at the time.
It influeed my decision making this year's list as well.
I actually thought Jesse's was not that easy to kind of be like, oh, where'd you go wrong? Because all of you picked Tage Thompson. Gonna guess there's not a lot of Sabres on the list this year. Don't worry, we got you in there.
You're represented.
Represent, because it won't be on the list. Jason Robertson at 10 might have been the high one there, and then obviously Bedard just being there. But that was a fun pick. So, and Corwin had the most nuts list probably, period. He had Kucherov at 12th, ended up being probably the second best player in the league last year.
Hot take.
And Austin Matthews was the guy he had at number 2. So none of you had Austin Matthews that high last year. Let's see what it'll be this year. Obviously, this is also the first time that we've gotten together and actually filmed something since the tragic passing of both Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau. Obviously, just a remarkably sad story. And again, this is the first time we've actually kind of had the chance to really kind of do anything. And we wanted to at least pay some form of tribute to him, even if it's in a minor way. So that 13th spot, which is right on the heart of all of your lists, right in the center there, that will be dedicated to Johnny. So that 13th spot, Johnny and his brother Matthew. Again, just a small gesture, but again, obviously our condolences to the Gaudreau family. Sad news to start this season with, and yeah, it's clearly affected the hockey community and their family as well. So we're just sending all of our condolences out to the Gaudreaus. Never easy to transition out of that, but again,
well said, though, Z.
Yeah.
Well said.
Love all you guys.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun in here.
Let's do it.
Let's reveal the list. Who wants to start?
Let's start with me.
Okay.
Yeah, Jules,
okay.
let's go.
Jules.
Start with me. I'm so shy. This took me a long time, and I think that this part of the list might actually be the hardest to reveal.
25 through 16. Jules, you're first.
Barkov, Robert Thomas, Jason Robertson. I'm like 90% sure that's Marner, but I was writing this in a rush. Yossi, Jack Hughes, Hedman, Point, JT Miller.
Okay, Luka.
The screams. All right. 25, Charlie McAvoy. 24, Evan Bouchard. 23, William Nylander. 22, Braden Point. 21, Jason Robertson. 20, Roman Yossi. 19, Alex Barkov. 18, Kaprizov. 17, Mitch Marner. 16, Jack Hughes.
Very nice.
Thanks.
Okay.
Good job to you two.
Great list, Luke.
Great
I
list,
love it.
guys.
25, Roman Yossi. 24, Sebastian Aho. 23, JT Miller. 22, Jack Eichel. 21, Adam Fox. 20, Elias Pettersson. 19, Victor Hedman. 18, Artemi Panarin. 17, Braden Point. And 16, Kirill Kaprizov.
Jesse.
Okay.
It's okay, Les. Okay.
25, I've got Sam Reinhart. 24, Mitch Marner. 23, William Nylander. 22, Braden Point. 21, Elias Pettersson.
There you go. You'll appreciate that.
20, Igor Shesterkin.
Oh, the first goalie.
19, Adam Fox. 18, JT Miller. 17, Roman Yossi. 16, Jack Hughes.
Okay, so the very first thing that obviously pops out here, no one wanted to go goalies except for you, Jesse. Yeah. If there's one goalie to go with, yeah, it's Igor.
So last year, I think I was actually the only person who didn't go with the goalie, and I was thinking of taking the same route. But if you look at what Shesterkin has done during the past few seasons, and even what's carried into the playoffs, he's been outstanding. Yeah, he hasn't won a cup, but he was so unbelievably valuable to the Rangers last year, especially in that playoff run. I love Connor Hellebuyck. Has won 2 Vezas now, but if there's one thing that I have not seen from Hellebuyck in a long time is that he has not performed in the playoffs well, and I'm taking that's in my list.
Because it's such a chaotic position, I feel like obviously that's why everyone critiques it the most, where it's like you feel like I can't trust to put you on this list because Ilya Sorokin obviously
and
at number 9
last year too at
Yeah.
11. Like
yeah.
he didn't have a great regular season. He was great in the playoffs.
He's great in the
again,
playoffs,
but
exactly. He's
like,
incredible in the playoffs.
The play just fluctuates from year to year so much that
There was
another video we're doing where we're
Yeah.
doing top 10 goalies, which I can tease right now, I guess, while we're talking about it. Like, there are names on that list that 2 years ago I would have been like, this guy wouldn't even be in my top 20.
Yeah, that's the thing with goaltending in the NHL right now. There's not, like, I literally can't name one guy who surefire could take your team to the promised land. Like, a few years ago it was Vasilevsky. Like, that guy just doesn't exist in the league.
He's
right
really
now.
up and down too. I was
Yeah,
gonna
but
all
he-
that to say, Igor, I agree.
He's
with
the
you on
guy.
that. He's
Yeah.
probably
He's the best
Yeah.
goalie in
the
the league.
only goalie I expected to hear on,
For sure.
on your list, and so yeah.
He to me is the goalie.
Is there anyone that you guys are surprised you didn't hear though from anyone's list here?
The one name that stuck out to me was Adam Fox. And I think we had this argument last year when we did this because a couple of you were a lot lower on Fox. And I'm again surprised that he's in the 20s. And, like, there are a lot of...
You think he should be higher?
I think he should be higher. That's why I want to hear from you guys because you both revealed where
So-
Fox was on your list.
I don't have a ton of D in my top half.
Me neither.
There's only 4 of them, I think, left on my list. I just think that the guys above offer a little bit more what I want from like my ideal defenseman. That's not to say like me calling Adam Fox the 5th best defenseman. That's
No,
still
I
very
know.
high praise in my opinion. He's a great player.
Why do
He's
you
good
hate
on
the
both
guy?
Is
ends.
it the
Thomas,
point
why do you hate
production?
him?
You hate his guy.
Because, like, he's got
No.
3 straight 70-point seasons, kills penalties probably more than Quinn Hughes does or Miro Heiskanen does. Fox probably doesn't get viewed as, like, this point-producing guy. Like, he's 70-plus in 3 straight seasons. He's a model of consistency back there.
Fox has grown on me a little bit, but I'm still not as gung ho as I am. On
Yeah,
some other
I think this
players.
is my 4th. If I'm right, this is my 4th best defenseman in the league.
If
which
I'm
is-
right
which
about
is-
my own list.
my neck. I love Adam Fox. He's great. There are just other players I would rather have on my team than him. Making the argument for Yossi over Fox is completely reasonable, given Yossi's absolutely absurd production over the last 3 seasons.
One name that I can assure you that people will be screaming about whether or not he was included on the list, off of the list, where he is on the list is Mitch Marner.
Of course, I was going to bring that up too.
All of you have him in that range. Right?
I actually
think?
don't have him at all
On your list.
I don't
You
have
okay.
him on my list.
And
Thomas is the one person who doesn't have him.
Luke,
Yeah.
I think, had him the highest,
I have the
and I'm not
highest at
surprised because Luca
17.
loves Mitch Marner, which is totally fine. I personally was very close to leaving Marner off my list because he's a great player, very creative, but like we could talk about point production in the playoffs, all this stuff. Like he can kind of go invisible sometimes in the playoffs. What left him on the list for me, and like what could be an argument for Luca, I think I explained the story about how I just happened to go out for lunch with Chris Letang.
Who's this?
I went out for lunch with Chris Letang.
Where is this
Oh
going?
my
I'm like,
gosh. How are you name dropping? Like, what is the connection?
You guys want to hear the story?
No, I've
I've heard
Yeah,
the
yeah.
story.
I just was not expecting the Marner tail
No,
to go in this direction.
I'll tell you why. Because
when me and Chris were having dinner. Dang.
no,
Tanger. You know, Tanger Bud?
It's
Yeah,
a funny
we're
story.
Tanger.
It's a funny
We're
story.
getting
So-
subs.
So he was in line to get a sandwich, and so was I. Long story short, I ended up eating lunch with him there for 40 minutes, and he was talking to me how he thinks Marner's an exceptional player. And I'm like, okay, you know what? If I'm hearing it from like a potential surefire Hall of Fame,
Yeah, he's
in
all
my opinion, then like this definitely means something that he's saying that. So I had to respect that.
So if I'm getting this correctly,
Chris Letang
because you met Chris Letang at a sub shop, that's why.
And
it's
he
on.
told you Mitch Marner's good.
What?
When a
I'm
future
just kidding.
Hall of Famer is telling you about how good he thinks someone is, and that was one of the only players
You
that
gotta
came
listen.
up in the conversation with him, I'm gonna listen to that. And also, no one else had Sam Reinhart on the list.
Oh, I really.
I giggled when you said
Yeah.
Sam Reinhart only because about an hour ago you said you'd recently met him. So I was like, okay, that
He's on the list.
explains
Chris,
that.
Chris Letang
At
is on
25
this
too,
list.
eh?
My boy.
You just had to get him in.
Expect
You
to
had
see
get
Chris
him in.
Letang on the list a little bit.
Guy had 58 goals and I think 94 points this year.
So wait, yeah, why you guys are just kind of expecting it to be a one-off? Is that why you guys don't have him? Or
I don't
it's
think
just-
so. I could make a list of easily like 5 guys that I wanted to squeak in at that 25 spot, and he was very high on that. I feel like I didn't have room for him.
Reinhardt has like showed it in the past where you're just like, okay, he could be that top player, and this year like he showed it. Like he was like the guy offensively for Florida this year. Speaking of Florida, Jules, I was actually surprised to hear how low you had Barkov.
Barkov, like, actually
25.
almost fell off mine.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah,
Why?
even though he had a great season this year. I don't.
Didn't you win the Selkie?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
he always
again,
wins the Selkie. That's his thing. He wins
That's
the
his-
Selkie, and he's overrated,
But he's
underrated.
also a point per game guy.
My guess is
Other
he was a victim of
players.
not being thought of until you got to the end, and you're like, he should be on.
To be
That's why he's
so
always the most
honest,
underrated
like,
player
no,
voted.
I don't want to
I
like
know,
continue
I
to
hate
add
it.
to that narrative. I
Well,
hate it so much.
you
but
just did.
There are a few things I feel like we got to bring up before we move
Me
on.
too.
Okay,
Because there are
okay.
a lot of players.
Yeah.
So I don't have JT Miller or Elias Pettersson. I
Okay.
think it's just because I have
don't
more.
either.
Elias Pettersson isn't
That's
on your whole
hot.
list.
Oh, the
Man.
Canucks
Oh,
fans are
guys.
gonna
You're gonna
Hey,
love it.
what's your
Canucks
email?
fans-
Guys,
We'll
I
send
don't
them
have
to.
Phoebe
Yeah.
either.
I'm taking JT Miller over Mitch Marner any day of the week.
I have McAvoy and Bouchard at 25 and 24. If I were to put JT Miller somewhere, I'd probably put him at one of those spots. He's been the Canucks' most, I think, consistent player, like playoffs, regular season in the past few years, especially with Pettersson, like the disappearing act in the playoffs. If you want to talk about a guy that did that, like
Yeah.
that was the whole conversation. Was Pettersson just wasn't performing? I think they're right there. Like I could just swap them out for McAvoy and Bouchard. I just value defensemen a little.
It's like that
more, I think.
26th spot you guys talked
I
last
active-
year.
yeah.
Where there's
But
like
Luka-
there's like 15 players in the league that technically are like just missing.
Yeah.
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 Why do you value a guy like Marner much more than a guy like JT Miller?
I think he's better defensively. And I also think, like, I know the playoff stuff is talked about a lot. There are 15 players in the last 3 seasons that have averaged a point per game or better in the playoffs. Marner's one of them.
We're arguing about a guy being one of the top 25 players in
Yeah.
the league.
Sure.
But point then being like, I don't know if you can just throw all that away as far as all the playoff
I
talk,
don't
because there is
disagree.
such a thing as empty points. All right, the next 5. Jules started last time, so Jesse will start with this end. This is the 15th to 11th spot.
Number 15, Kirill the Throw Kaprizov. Number 14, Mikko Rantanen. Number 13, Johnny Hockey and Matthew Gaudreau. Number 12, Quinn Hughes. Number 11, Alex Barkov.
Thomas.
Number 15, I have Miro Heiskanen. 14, Jack Hughes. 13, Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau. Number 12, Mikko Rantanen. Number 11, Matthew Tkachuk.
All right. 15, Artemi Panarin. 14, Miro Heiskanen. 13, Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau. 12, Sidney Crosby. 11, Mikko Rantanen.
I just feel like I'm having some regrets right now, but I'll go ahead. Sid the Kid, Kaprizov, Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau. 12, Nylander. 11, Fox.
One player I'm going to just start the conversation with because it dipped into yours. Matthew Tkachuk was like one of the guys you were almost vaulting into top 5. I think, or not you. It was you and Corwin talking about that. You guys clearly have him in the top 10 then, I guess, because no one else said him there except for Thomas. So, Thomas, why is Matthew Tkachuk not a top 10 player in the NHL? Sorry, but that's what I'm going to ask you.
So, listen, the names that I'm going to list before, we're talking about elite of the elite. Matthew Tkachuk is a phenomenal player. I think all 32 teams would line up in seconds to get this guy on their team. I don't think this is an indictment on him for being 11. I just think the guys I have above him have more top-end skill. And, yes, 2 years ago now when they lost to Vegas in the Cup final, he was the heart and soul of that playoff run. This year when they go out and won the Cup, I don't think he really grasped the entire storyline and was carrying the team on his shoulders like he once was. He's still a great player, still had a very good playoff. The guys I have above him, I just think have a little bit more skill.
Do any of you guys disagree with him being outside of top 10?
I think
Or
it's
is it
just like the combination of how rare he is as a player. Like
Yeah.
he has that touch of top end skill. He has that grit. I don't know if there's another guy in the league that has such a combination of those things.
In fairness to Buckley, he had him at 11.
We're not here to be fair.
We're not here. We're here to dice up the specifics.
I'm here to look at your storyline.
One thing I
and
will
go
say
with it.
I found interesting, Jules, I found William Nylander was like interesting at was it 12?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I respect it.
I think it's kind of the inverse of what you were talking about because William Nylander's kind of been a dog in the playoffs the past couple of years. Like he's been the only guy on the team that kind of shows up consistently. And then he had that insane start to the season this year. I started to see him as more of a driver over the last 2 years.
That's going to be huge for the
Mitch.
Blackhawks when they sign him, as we said.
Yes. Yes. It's gonna happen eventually.
Anyone else? Have anything else from anyone's list that stuck out?
I want to talk about Sidney Crosby. I put him too low here. I don't really have an excuse. I'm ashamed. I'm disgusted. I don't know. It's just like
So why would he drop out of that? Just because of age?
just because the guy's in front of him,
Yeah.
I think. And maybe I'm a little high on like a certain defenseman right now, but we'll get into that in a second.
I think like this year, the only skepticism you have is like, when is the cliff gonna come? And trying to project the cliff as opposed to like you got younger guys ahead of him maybe that you're just like, maybe these guys.
Do you think
can
he'll
reach
have a
different
cliff?
I don't think he'll ever kill
I don't think he
Am
will
I
either.
wrong to sense that he feels like a guy who'll know when to hang it up?
I don't
and
think-
it's like there will be no cliff with him.
He works hard in a different way.
It's not even with the
does.
cliff. It's just the longevity that his plays. He's such a smart player.
Yeah.
It was
Yes.
never the speed with him or the like overbearing athleticism with Crosby that made him so good. It was just his smarts and his ability to see the ice. And I just
It didn't hurt that he was also.
And
he
the
did
word-
move up, but yes.
We
Yeah.
have 94 points again though, another year older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
And he
will.
didn't even
Guys,
play all
That's the
82.
question.
All right. Anyone else on this, or should we move to the top 10? Before we get to our top 10 list, though, as you might have noticed or not noticed, you're currently watching this video on the new BarDown channel. You can find all of our hockey content moving forward on this channel. We'll be doing other things, now we'll be on the TSN channel, but everything here, just hockey. So season previews, tier lists, going bar down, and of course our season preview, which is some of the most fun things we do. And finally the quizzes, of course, yeah. All of that on the channel. So subscribe if you haven't. Of course, like the video, because now it helps us more than ever. So yeah, thank you. Thomas, you'll start us off.
Alrighty, and I feel like this is where my defense of having Matthew Tkachuk at 11 starts, and it starts at number 10 with David Pasternak. Number 9, I've got Quinn Hughes. 8, Sidney Crosby. Number 7, Alexander Barkov.
Wow.
And number 6, Leon Draisaitl.
Number 10, Matthew Tkachuk. Number 9, Adam Fox. Number 8, Quinn Hughes. Number 7, David Pasternak. Number 6, Nikita Kucherov.
Julia?
10, Quinn Hughes. 9, Rantanen. 8, Pasternak. 7, Kachuk. 6, Kucherov.
And Jesse.
Number 10, Matthew Tkachuk. Number 9, Artemi Panarin. Number 8, Sid the Kid. Number 7, Pasta. Number 6. Are you kidding me? Sorry.
All right. One thing I'm going to notice is Kucherov outside the top 5 on everyone's list. A lot more respect this year, though. Last year, he kind of shut a lot of people up. And, he's one of the clearly top 2, 3 offensive players in the league. What bumps him then, obviously? Just the defensive side?
All-star game performance.
That's really
Those
good.
are the margins.
The top 6 for me is just so, specifically the top 6 is just so close. I love Cooch. I just think I would rather have the other 5 guys.
We're probably all underrating his career a little bit in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
He's got a couple Art Rosses now. He's Lightning leading scorer and 2 cup runs. 140 point season, 5th player to have 100 assists in a season.
That gets glossed over so much.
Oh yeah,
That
just
assist
nuts.
stat?
What a number right
Yeah.
there. 100 assists in a season, and it seems like he's just continuing to get better. Maybe the question is if I was building a team right now, who would I want? And he's the 6th player that I'd want.
If he did the same thing that he did last year, this year, would any defensive deficiencies then make you give pause and put him up the list? Because the whole point is
Yeah.
to score goals.
No, it's not.
I think the guys above him, though, can all somewhat hit that scoring ceiling on their own, and they offer more of a polished game.
Can I switch? I think I would actually rather have Cooch in my top 5.
Who are you deleting?
I'm gonna switch
Swapping him
Draisaitl
with
with him.
Leon.
So Quinn Hughes is in the top 10 for everyone except for Jesse, correct?
Are we going to look at this one next year and think we got really hot and heavy on Quinn Hughes after a hot
I don't
year?
know, Julia. Are we?
I don't think so.
don't
Quinn,
think so
as
either.
soon as they put that C on Quinn Hughes, it just seemed like the whole aura around the team changed and around him. Apparently, he's gotten so serious about his diet and being on guys, about being at the rink.
He's
and-
pretty serious when we did a podcast with him.
Don't remind Jesse.
It's his new captaincy aura, and it's really been something for the Canucks. So I honestly, I don't see us regretting this deeply. Maybe we have him a little bit high right now.
People might have him higher, honestly. I'm sure people looked at the Norris season and were
Yeah.
he's the number 1 defenseman in the league right now for everything he does offensively for that team. But
As an Avs fan
Yeah.
there, you sweating a little bit? And Kale maybe...
not really.
Is
He
his
had 2
his
less-
spot under
He
pressure?
had 2 less points than him this season, I think, or something like that. Kale still had a career high in points, hit 90. I think the rivalry is very healthy, and I think Hughes has to add like the penalty killing aspect to his game. Like, I'm not saying Kale's amazing at it, but the Avs put him out in that scenario, and they trust him as one of their top penalty killers now. So if Hughes adds that defensive responsibility to his game and it doesn't impact what he can do in the offensive side of the ice, that can bridge the gap even more. Or if he's just putting up 120-point seasons and Kale isn't hitting like 100, that can kind of widen the gap in some people's minds.
Should we go to the top 5?
Let's
Top
do it.
5?
All right.
Here it is. The final 5 names on your list. We will start as we began with a trepidatious Julia Teixeira.
What's trepidatious?
She's kind of like nervous about it.
Oh.
I know. Like I'm honestly feeling like reading this out in the order.
BarDown vocabulary lesson. Let's go.
I don't even know about my order right now.
You should. We're at the last 5.
Matthews, Makar, Dry, McKinnon. I wrote Davo, and I obviously meant McDavid.
But Davo, I've never heard that one.
That's what I hear his friends call him.
I'm not his friend.
Got to hang around Aurora more.
At number 5, Leon Draisaitl. At number 4, Austin Matthews. At number 3, Cale Makar. At number 2, Nathan McKinnon. And number 1, Connor McDavid. I think it's the same top 5 I had last year.
Alrighty, number 5, I've got Nikita Kucherov. Got Cale Makar at 4, Austin Matthews at 3, Nathan McKinnon at 2, and of course, Connor McDavid at 1.
Well, number 5, I've now got Cooch. Number 4, I'm going to go Austin Matthews. Number 3, Cale Makar. Number 2, Nathan McKinnon. And number 1, McJesus.
As always now, this is probably an annual tradition. We'll quickly go, yay, congrats, Connor, best player in the league. That is most
Sickest
awesome.
wedding
Yeah.
of all time.
Oh,
Like,
yeah?
I wanted an invite to that.
So, Austin Matthews actually went up on a few of your lists here because I think it was only Corwin trying to fight him into the top 3 even. He had him at 2.
Well, that was a tough year for him 2 years ago. The injuries and the...
But the question being now then, for anyone who has Cale Makar above him, which I believe it is you. and that
Last
is
second change.
You.
I do too.
Why is Cale Makar a better player than Austin Matthews, who offers a lot?
Like, both players are obviously so capable of taking over a game, but I just feel like if I need a guy leading my team into battle, especially in the playoffs, like who's someone that's like really going to be the difference maker in the playoffs when it counts the most, I'm going with Makar. The goal that I saw Cale Makar score against the Jets in the first round last year, where he like literally just went end to end, I'm like, I don't think anyone other than McDavid or McKinnon in the league is doing that except for Makar. I don't think Matthews is doing that. Matthews' finish is incredible.
Yeah.
I have a tough time. I think 3 and 4 are interchangeable. I think if someone put Matthews ahead of Makar, I'm like, yeah, I get it. But I just like Makar's game so much, and he's clearly the best defenseman in the world.
So genuinely, if you were starting a team tomorrow and they offered you both of those guys, that's who you'd take
I take
first.
Makar.
Okay.
Wow.
If you can build your team with a defenseman that can score goals, put up 100 points, and kill penalties, and not be like, he's not a liability defensively by any means, like, you have a forward that can take over games while also being tasked with being one of the most responsible players on the ice. So to have that combination, it's rare.
So are you going to make a case for him then? Because we've heard enough as to why Makar is above him.
I'm not really one to come on here and fight for the Leaf players, but if I
He's
have,
a Habs
if I
fan,
have
in
to
case
say
you
something,
don't know yet.
If I have to say something, one, Matthews is a centerman, which I value more. And in recent years, his defensive play has just been phenomenal. Like, he's turned into one of the best defensive forwards in the NHL.
Love those stick
And
lifts.
the hardest thing to do in hockey is score goals. And you're not getting someone who scores 45, 50 goals, which already in its own right is impressive. Guys like McDavid and McKinnon, if they do that, it's a good season. He scored 69 goals last year.
The hardest thing in hockey is not to score goals. The hardest thing in hockey is to win the Stanley Cup. And Cale Makar.
You don't win the Stanley Cup in one game.
What?
The hardest thing to do
exactly.
is score goals.
It's a team game, though.
But also, you got to score goals to win the Stanley Cup.
Like, man, like,
That's something-
like
that's
you
something
can't win
do in a
with
game.
0
You don't-
goals.
It felt like Jesse was onto something philosophically.
It did,
Let's see
and
where
then
he's
he-
going.
then he-
it's like, okay, like
Then he
we're
said
talking-
it, and then I was a
Let's
little
see
wild
where he's
on it.
going.
No, but you're
He's a
comparing
great
apple to
goal.
oranges.
He's a great goal scorer. Come the playoff time, I don't think Matthews is the exceptional goal scorer that we always see him be during the regular season. And Cale Makar is a guy that has led his team all the way to the promised land. He is the guy in the playoffs. You have no doubt that Cale Makar is getting it done for the Avs.
I have a follow-up then for saying that because, okay, let's move on from Matthews maybe here. There's probably only really one name on this list that could ever threaten Connor McDavid's spot on top of that list. This guy who just won the Hart Trophy. And since we're talking so much about Cup success and winning then, what would Nathan MacKinnon have to do this year to have you jump him?
I would argue,
Would
though,
it
that
ever happen?
Austin Matthews could be the guy still. Because of how good defensively he is, and if he has a playoff run where if the Leafs win the Cup and he's their best player, and he wins the Rocket for a fourth time, nobody else has won more than 3 Rockets, other than Matthews and Ovi. I think McKinnon would have to... I don't even know what he would have to do. Because,
Maybe 200 points would do it for me.
I don't
it's
even
just
know.
a cool
He'd win the
feeling.
Rocket and the Art Ross,
the same
and he'd
year.
have to win the
Win the
Cup,
Cup.
and he'd have to win the Conn Smythe.
But that's also assuming that, McDavid isn't just also in those races. Because, it's totally possible that, maybe McKinnon has 60 goals and McDavid has 58.
The only scenario in which McDavid ever drops out of there does feel like where it's like a form thing, where it's like, man, this guy is so good and it's undeniable. He's been 2 years in a row, Nathan MacKinnon, and maybe McDavid has some kind of drop off. Where when you do it, you'd be like, yeah, but he'll be back next year and he'll be the best player 5 years from there too.
Only 3 players have more 100-point seasons than McDavid already. Gretzky, Lemieux, Marcel Dion.
No one's touching McDavid right now. It's just too hard. And you even look at what he did, even though they didn't win the Cup, that Stanley Cup run that he had was just out of control.
Who is someone that you all didn't really consider for your list this year that you think a year from now will be surefire on there?
I got one guy.
Tell
Wyatt
us.
Johnston.
Woo!
Outstanding player. I think if he, again, improving in goals every year, if he hits 40 or 45 next year, he was a playoff performer for Dallas. If he leads them in points again, I think he's going to sneak his way in. You guys have a pick for a guy that is going to be on this list next year that you weren't considering earlier, or maybe were?
I stuck Bedsy on this list last year before he even
And then
played
took
the
him
game.
off.
I'm going Bedsy. I'm a full believer in that guy, and I think that we often see players take a huge leap in their second year. He's got more talent around him this year. We're about to see the superstar of Connor Bedard this year.
Especially when Crosby's playing with him in 2 years.
Yeah. And Nylander. Don't forget him.
And
Mitch
Nylander.
Marner.
I'm going with a different first overall pick, Uri Slavkovsky.
Oh, I love that.
Top 25 player in the
That's
NHL.
all.
I love that.
If you
Wow.
watch,
That
if
is
you watch his
massive.
back half of the
I'm
season
into
last
that.
year, this guy, some people just figure it out, and you can just flip the switch like that. He's
I'm into
6'5".
That's a hot take.
He is
That's
a machine.
incredibly hot take.
And I'm trying to give a hot take, like a fun young player that has the ability to I want better.
You don't
We
want
said
the-
hot, not
I
crazy.
believe in Slav. I just think that there are several players who would be
I'll
good
take
on this
I'll
list.
take 5-1 odds on that.
Before we wrap this video up, we did want to just pay one last tribute to Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau. Again, it's an unthinkable tragedy, made all the more tragic because it affects both his family, the communities, but probably more than anything else, you guys, it's just how preventable this is. It seems very simple. Just don't drink and drive. As a final form of tribute, we did want to take both Johnny's number 13 and Matthew Gaudreau's number 40, which he was wearing at Bridgeport, put them together there for 53 seconds of silence. But also, wanted to open it up if anyone had anything to say on it.
Just very devastating. And just to reiterate what you said, Z, we have got a lot of younger people that watch our stuff too, who are maybe just getting their license soon. And the dumbest and most selfish thing you could do is to get behind a wheel drunk. If you're gonna drink, figure your night out, figure your plan out before. Don't ever put yourself in any situation where you can drink and drive, because look at where we are. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's a horrible tragedy, especially think about watching Johnny Gaudreau as a young kid, and one of the toughest parts of all this is to see how much he was loved by everybody, and young fans, older fans, family, friends, and he just seemed like him and his brother both, the bond that they had, they just seemed like such good, genuine people. And the fact that at the age 31 and 30 that they've just been kind of taken away it's terrible.
The tributes obviously have been so touching from everyone in Calgary and Nationwide Arena in front of the Saddle Dome and Nationwide. And just condolences, send our love and support to the family and whoever needs it, because the hockey community as a whole as well has been affected by this, and a lot of people are.
It has been incredible, Luca, to see the support pour out from around the hockey world. There's a lot of things about the sport you can criticize, but it's a small family, it's a tight family, and it's been a spot of light in this really hard period to see everyone come together and rally around. There's one poignant picture of an Edmonton Oilers fan standing outside the Saddle Dome. I don't know. It just felt like it summed it up. Everyone coming together to support this family and the Columbus Blue Jackets as an organization.
Absolutely. So again, our condolences to the Gaudreaus, and again to Johnny and Matthew. Our 53 seconds of silence in your honor.